last topic that I want to talk about in this section is where you may have a common factor involved in your trinomial. Okay, so these will say factor completely. Step one should always be, is there a greatest common factor? Well, as I look at number 13, 2x squared plus 14x minus 16, there is a common factor. 2 will go into every term. So before you do anything else, we're going to factor out the 2, just like we did in the previous section, okay? If I factor out the 2, that's going to leave me with x squared plus 7x minus 8. Then I'm left with a trinomial in the parentheses that looks just like the problems that I've just finished working in the previous parts of this section. Okay, so the 2 will be brought down, and I'm going to want to break down this trinomial into 2 binomials. This is what's meant by factoring completely. Okay, make sure you break the polynomial down as far as it will go. So x squared plus 7x minus 8. I know I'm going to have x times x. I would need to look at the 8. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. Because it is negative 8, this means I want to find what's going to subtract to equal positive 7. And so that would be 1 and 8. And then remember your sign rules. These signs have to be different, and the higher number will take the middle sign. So because I need a positive 7, the 8 will be positive, the 1 will be negative. So my answer is all of this, including the 2. If you factor out a greatest common factor, it has to be part of your answer, okay? Because remember, we said this has to multiply back to equal the polynomial that we started out with. Okay, number 14. X cubed minus 4x squared minus 5x. There is a GCF, okay? I could take out an x, which will leave me with x squared minus 4x minus 5. Okay, so again, I'm left with a polynomial or a trinomial that I can break down into 2 binomials. X times x would give me x squared, so I need to look at the 5. It is negative, which means I want to find 2 numbers that will multiply to be 5, which is just 1 and 5, that will also subtract to be negative 4. So we know that will be 1 and 5. Because I need it to subtract to be negative 4, the 5 has to be negative, the 1 has to be positive. And so my answer would be x times x plus 1 times x minus 5. Okay, number 15, I have 3x cubed minus 36x squared plus 105x. Again, we have a common factor. 3 will go into every term, and each term has an x. So if I factor out a 3x, that will leave me with x squared minus 12x plus 35. Bring down 3x and break down this trinomial into 2 binomials. Okay, so because it begins with x squared, I'm going to have x times x. Look at my constant, positive 35. Okay, what are my factors of 35? 1 times 35 or 5 times 7. I'm looking for the 2 numbers that will add to be negative 12. Okay, so that will be 5 and 7, but the signs will both need to be negative. Okay, remember, if it's a positive, we're looking for what's going to add to give me the middle term. So that would be a negative 5 and a negative 7, which would give you negative 12. So your final answer would be 3x times x minus 5 times x minus 7. Number 16. Okay, the one thing you need to see about this problem is that it's not in descending order. When you're factoring, you always want the highest degree term to be first. So that means I want this x squared to be first, and then the x, okay, the positive 5x, and then the negative 14. So before you factor, put your polynomial in descending order, okay? So now, do we have a common factor? No, just a trinomial that we want to break down. So that would be x times x. Look at the last term, the constant, 14. 1 times 14 or 2 times 7. Because it is negative, I want to know what's going to subtract to give me positive 5. 2 and 7. But what's going to subtract to be 5 would be a negative 2 and a positive 7. The higher number takes the middle sign. Okay, so my answer would be x minus 2 times x plus 7.